than many ships have in their entire propulsion systems. And it's not just the wind that Ulysses must push against. The River Liffey is plagued with strong and dangerous cross currents as well. Captain Declan O'Connor has been in sea service for some 35 years, 15 as a master of various ferries. He takes these tricky maneuvers in stride.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the captain speaking. I've just cleared the River Liffey there now. There's a southerly gale blowing at the moment. I shouldn't hold us up too much.
Other vessels joining Ireland to the United Kingdom will not depart today. They're worried about passenger comfort and shifting cargo in the aggravated sea state. But Ulysses was designed and built for just such a voyage, and will forge ahead into the treacherous Irish Sea right on schedule. Punching through a severe winter gale and waves that are reaching the 10-meter mark, Ulysses maintains a speed of nearly 40 kilometers an hour, arriving off Holyhead Harbor right on schedule. Inside the harbor approaches, wind gusts of 120 kilometers an hour are reported. That's a very powerful force pushing this giant vessel in directions the captain does not want to go. Now the captain really has his hands full. 2 propellers that can go ahead and astern, 2 rudders that can steer independently, 4 thrusters, plus a tugboat acting as a 5th thruster. A final test of nerves as an investment of $500 million flirts with a wall of solid steel and concrete. But Ulysses overcomes the storm's final fury, and the world's biggest vehicle ferry arrives safely at her berth. Our supership number 10 delivers her cargo, a perfect docking, defeating a near-perfect storm. Our countdown of the top 10 superships in the world continues. From number 10, the gigantic ferry Ulysses, to number 9. Mark Twain called them floating wedding cakes, the steam-powered passenger boats, cargo boats, and showboats that plied the Mississippi River in the 19th century. But there's a 21st century successor to these historic paddle wheelers that really takes the cake. Number 9 in our top 10 superships, the American Queen. $65 million worth of high luxury and hot air. A graceful bow to American tradition below and above her polished hardwood decks. Her steel hull is 125 meters long with a beam of 27 meters. Her 6 decks rise 30 meters from the waterline to the top of her fancy fluted smokestacks. The 6 decks, named from the bottom up: Main, Cabin, Texas, Observation, Promenade, and Sun Deck. The special architectural features on board include a grand saloon and a history-filled dining room, modeled after a room aboard the J.M. White, a famous riverboat from the late 1800s. There's also a theater, which is a replica of a Western opera house, and a reading room named for Mark Twain, where the old master humorist's spirit can be felt and sometimes even seen.
I say this, and I say it with pride as captain, she is a beautiful, beautiful boat.
You know, I think if I lived in the 1800s, I'd have been one of those boys sitting on a bluff yelling, "Steamboats are coming."
On the big river, the challenge is to spin the paddle wheel slowly, yet powerfully enough to fight the Mississippi's surging 5-knot current. Surprisingly, the ultra-modern American Queen runs on a pair of 75-year-old engines salvaged from an old U.S. Army dredger, and a boiler that generates 10,000 kilograms of steam every hour. But there are some amazing high-tech innovations, including a retractable wheelhouse and smokestacks that can be lowered when the 6-story high American Queen passes under a 5-story high bridge. At 6 decks high, the American boat ever built. But this height allows for a lot of luxurious accommodation and entertainment space. All of the American Queen staterooms are spacious and continue the overall Victoriana theme, with patterned wallpaper, carpets, and many authentic period furnishings.
The period of travel that we try to represent and recreate is of that warm, grander period of travel. In an era where traveling just started, the river boats, paddle boats were the first time Americans really got to travel.
It's our super ship number 9, the American Queen. An irresistible invitation to slow down, breathe deep, and take life at river speed. Halfway around the world, in Southeast Asia, the challenge is not just to enjoy the scenery, but to make more of it. That's a job for super ship number 8, the Vasco da Gama. The world's most powerful trailing hopper suction dredger. A monster earth mover that can eat more than 30,000 tons of muck in a single swallow. Then, pump it back out to create land where there was no land before. It would take 1,200 dump trucks more than 4 days to carry as much earth as Vasco da Gama moves in a 2-hour operation. And those suction intakes are so powerful, they could drain a family-sized swimming pool in just 2 seconds. Built in Germany, Vasco da Gama is twice the size of the world's 2nd biggest dredger. But the number 8 supership in our top 10 countdown had to sail all the way to Southeast Asia to find her best clients, scooping out a new container port for the Malaysian government, with load after load of sand from 144 kilometers offshore. The business end of this incredible vessel is the 2 suction or drag heads. Each of them weighs 55 tons. They hang off the end of 35 meters of piping. Like giant vacuum cleaner heads, they scrape the river bottom, and with the aid of water jets and a truly fearsome sucking action provided by the world's largest submerged dredge pumps, it can transport the clay water mix up to the gigantic storage hopper. With both drag heads in operation, the 33,000 cubic meter hopper will be filled in about an hour. When she wants to discharge cargo, the ship will use one of 3 methods. Pumping ashore a distance of up to 10 kilometers through a floating pipe, which takes about an hour. Discharging through doors on the bottom, which is the fastest method and takes 15 minutes. Or rainbowing, a spectacular process which sends a spray out a distance of 100 meters for just over an hour. On the bridge, the dredging operator is reading data on 4 main fronts: how fast the vessel is traveling, keeping the ship at the edge of the sandbank. At the same time, he has to make sure that river currents or tides don't force the suction heads under the hull, where they could smash into a spinning propeller. He also has control over which of the 8 hoppers he is directing the sand into. Loading too much at one time into the front of the ship could bring the stern and the propellers out of the water. What's worse, with so much weight coming aboard so quickly, the ship could easily capsize. 24 hours a day, this king of the bottom feeders is on the job. Vasco da Gama, the ultimate earth mover, and our super ship number 8. So far, we've sailed aboard the world's largest car ferry, the most magnificent paddle wheeler on the mighty Mississippi, and a giant suction dredger that can make a city out of a sandbar. Coming up next, the world's biggest sailboat, and a big fat Greek oil tanker that's so massive it takes half an hour to come to a stop. We're counting down the 10 most thrilling super ships in the world. It's a roster that includes only one sailboat. But what a sailboat! Our number 7 super ship, the Royal Clipper. A 5-masted square rigger whose main mast soars as high as a 20-story building. As she glides through the islands of the Caribbean, the only word for this super ship is breathtaking. The Royal Clipper is a living link to the glorious and glamorous golden age of sail, with a $60 million price tag. Her owner is Sweden's Mikael Kraft, and her inspiration was another 5-masted giant called the Prusen.
When I was a boy, I got the ship model for Christmas once from my father of the Preußen, the only 5-mast full ship ever built in the world so far. And I always loved the ship, and I dreamt about it, and I said, one day I'm going to build that ship, you know.
The Prusen came to grief in 1910 when she went aground beneath the white cliffs of Dover. To recreate her, Kraft purchased the hull of a partially built Polish ship, added 5 masts, and installed 228 super luxurious passenger cabins, each one decorated with the finest hardwoods, marble, and fabrics. But there's more to the Royal Clipper than meets the eye. Her 5 tons of sailcloth would cover 13 basketball courts. Aboard this super ship, they are furled and unfurled by an automated hydraulic winch system hidden inside the spars. One finger on a red button replaces dozens of hands on the rigging. Experienced riggers only have to climb the masts to do routine maintenance or free a tangled sheet. Even so, on the Royal Clipper, that's a trip of about 60 meters straight up, like climbing up the side of a 20-story building. A building that's rocking in an earthquake. For Captain Mueller-Seeran, the ease of sail handling on board Royal Clipper helps to avoid a potentially dangerous situation.
In case of squalls hitting the ship, we can take the sails in immediately. We don't have to lay aloft, because it's dangerous. With the remote control, we can operate this hydraulic motor, get the sail out and in terms of minutes.
Number 7 in our countdown of the world's most unique super ships, the Royal Clipper, the only 5